They played on different teams, but at one point, they were the talk of the Quebec Pee Wee tournament. At one point, they were the talk of the Memorial Cup. They were the talk of junior hockey. They do have a couple of things in common. Both went number one overall in the draft. Guy Lafleur in 1971, our guest in 1970. They are both two of the greatest players to ever play the game. Today, on the Sick Podcast, greatness recognizes greatness. I had a chance to see him at Guy Lafleur's funeral. The great Gilbert Perreault is coming up on the Sick Podcast.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro. The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
And now a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Sports entertainment like no other. Brought to you by 8.6 Beer, intense by nature, and La Cage. If the last time you went to La Cage was when the Habs won the cup, it's time you went back to La Cage. The menu will surprise you.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, and yes, the menu will surprise you at La Cage. If the last time you went to La Cage was when the Habs won the cup, it's time that you go back. Man, how I would love to be at Le Casual Sport talking hockey with our next guest. But I guess the next best thing is doing it right here live on the Sick Podcast, and also brought to you by 8.6 Beer, intense by nature, the way he was and the way the flower was, the beer for those who follow their instinct and live their passions in order to make their mark. Before I introduce our next guest and bring him in, I'll tell you that I was at the Guy Lafleur funeral. I want to start by saying hats off to the Montreal Canadiens. I thought the entire process by them, whether it was Guy Lafleur lying in state at the Bell Center on Sunday and on Monday, or the funeral on the Tuesday, the whole organization of the event, they left out no detail whatsoever. I mean, it was a perfect 10, much like Guy Lafleur. And I had a chance to see so many people. It was an honor and a privilege to be there. I actually sat in the front row. It was a center aisle, the right side and the left side. And I was on the left side in the front row, and I had a chance to take it all in. It was beautiful. It was emotional. It was simple. It was great. It was everything that Guy Lafleur was. And speaking of greatness, I thought it would be a great time for greatness to recognize greatness. And when we talk about greatness, we talk about Guy Lafleur, but we also talk about the great Gilbert Perreault. Gilbert,
Tony,
how are you?
very good. Yourself? Good.
Very well. It was so nice to see you at Guy Lafleur's funeral, albeit under obviously very sad circumstances, but it was a celebration of his life, and a lot of people were there celebrating his life. And, you know, I'm so glad I had a chance to meet you, and I think we may have crossed paths once or twice before when the Legends were doing some of their games. But all my life, my dad and one of his very good friends, Pino Azaro, have talked to me about the great Gilbert Perreault. So I went over today, and I went over at the funeral, and I said, Gilbert, Tony Marinaro, so nice to meet you. And he said, I know you. I see you on TV every now and then.
Oh, yes.
That was nice to hear.
I've been watching you on RDS.
Yeah.
A few years ago, yeah.
Thank you very much for that. You know, you and Guy Lafleur, you have so much in common. At one point, you were both in the Quebec Pee Wee hockey tournament, and you both spoke highly of it. You were the talk of the Memorial Cup. You were the talk of the draft. You were the talk of Quebec. You were the talk of junior hockey. You were the talk of the National Hockey League. You played your entire career with the Buffalo Sabres. You did have a chance to play with Guy Lafleur at the Canada Cup, which is something that we're going to get to a little bit later. But when Guy Lafleur was around and he was asked about at one moment he knew he was going to be a hockey player, what inspired him, he always talked about the Quebec Pee Wee hockey tournament. which he played in 1962, 63, and 64. And if memory serves me well, you played in it in 61, 62, and 63. Is that accurate?
I think I played the first year of the tournament because the first year was not, I think it was in 59, 60.
Yeah.
The first year.
Yeah.
Because it was not at the Colisée. It was at the Victoria Park. And the final was at the Colisée, though. But I remember that. My son was playing hockey there one day, many years ago. And I said, I must have been playing here at least one in my life. And I couldn't remember what was the time. And all of a sudden it came back. And I said, the first year of the Pee Wee tournament. Yeah.
Wow. So did you, so you played the first year, you said. So that was what, 61?
59, 60.
59, 60. Okay, so when you played, Lafleur did not play in the Pee Wee tournament, or did you ever play against each other at the Pee Wee tournament?
No, we never played against each other.
Oh, wow.
We did. We had played. We were playing probably 3 games, and we were out of it because every time, the first game was not too bad. Second, but when you came to the third game, you always play against Toronto, who had a big team. They were such, the population there was 2 million, and Victoriaville at that time we only had about 35,000. So
wow,
they had a great team, Toronto.
The Lafleur story with the Pee Wee hockey tournament is actually a pretty funny one because Thurso didn't have a team, and I believe, if memory serves, he played for Clarence Rockland, and they brought him over, and in his first year, I think 5 games, 45 goals, including 19 in a game versus Lake Placid.
Well, he had that big slap shot, when he was young.
Yeah.
The goalies were scared of that. So what I heard about it was that they were coming out of the goal because stuff was so powerful. And I think he was scoring 7 or 8 goals every game.
Gilbert, you were so awesome with the Montreal Junior Canadiens, of course, in 68, 69, 70. You tore apart the league. You were the talk of the town, and it would attract so many people. I mean, you really put on a show back then, and you had a chance to win the Memorial Cup, and you never really played against Guy until I think you played one Memorial Cup versus each other. Did you not? Or how many times did you play against each other? Because you were in different leagues. You were in the OHA, and he was in the Quebec League.
Yeah. Well, we didn't keep at that time in Quebec. They didn't keep the players, because I played 1 year in Tête-Fermine in the Junior A, and I was playing with Réjean and Mark Tardif, and we won everything there in Tête-Fermine. And after that, instead of keeping us in the Quebec League, they were shipping us in the Ontario League. So Montreal, we were playing in Montreal, and Montreal was the only team playing in the OHA. So I guess they were picking up all the guys, different guys from different team in Quebec, bringing them in Montreal, and that's why we had such a great team, And with Tête-Fermine, we had 5 guys. We won everything there, and 5 guys the next year. We were shipped to Montreal.
We're gonna talk more about what happened thereafter, but I want to get to some of the images from the funeral, and it was really quite the scene. Here we go. Here's some photos of the day. There's inside Mary Queen of the World Church, of course.
This was beautiful, beautiful ceremonies, honoring Guy Lafleur. Gee.
Where pretty much everyone was there, right? Prime Minister Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, and the Premier of Quebec, of course, François Legault, Mayor of Montreal, Valérie Plante. A lot of players
from different teams,
Yeah, Darryl Sittler was there. Lanny McDonald was there. I mean, Joe Sakic was there. Can you imagine? His team had a playoff game, and he came in, and he was a former teammate of Guy Lafleur's, and he was a roommate as well. I think there's more pictures that we can see. Here we go. Do we have others?
Probably every team sent players to represent them. Probably.
Yeah, the commissioner of the National Hockey League, Gary Bettman, was there. And of course, the Montreal Canadiens. Not every player on the team was there, but most of the players were there. There's a picture of him lying in state at the Bell Center, which took place on Sunday and Monday. There's Carey Price, of course. You see Cole Caulfield. You see Nick Suzuki. Others. All right. What a day. Can you tell me how you felt when you heard about his passing, what happened on the Friday, April 22nd?
Everybody knew he was pretty sick. So I talked to him about a year ago, and that's probably a year ago. Yeah, we started to feel, to be sick. So
yeah,
I was telling him, hey, stay positive. You never know with the doctors today. They might come up with something new, every day they might come up with something new. So you never know. So stay positive try to listen to them. He had the different operation, so
yeah,
it must have been tough on him. And I just can't believe he's gone. I mean, and when I heard that he was gone the 22nd, well, he always hits you anyway. You don't expect that, and you want him to live forever.
Yeah,
and, it's tough.
I have had a chance to speak with so many of his former teammates, and today I said, you know what? Let me speak with one of his opponents who went up against him, who can tell us really. And the great Gilbert Perreault, greatness recognizes greatness. Not everyone knows your story, and I want to talk about it because it's an unbelievable story. The Canadiens traded their first pick in the 1970 draft to the Golden Seals in exchange for their first pick in the 71 draft. It wouldn't have mattered because it was Buffalo that actually won the first pick overall in 1970. So unfortunately, there was no chance of you being a Montreal Canadian. But, I read up on it. And nowadays, it's a lottery, right, with the balls to see who's going to get the first pick. Back in your day, it was a roulette wheel. Is that correct?
That's right. Well, that roulette, and from 1 to 10 was Vancouver, 11 to 20 was Buffalo. And I guess when they turn it, and I guess the arrow stopped right in front of 11. But the arrow was hitting one number, like the number was like that one over the other one. So Vancouver got up and said, hey, we got the first pick. And I guess Imlach saw the arrow was covering the number. He said, no, take a good look. It's number 11.
Which was Punch Imlach's favorite number and went on to be your number in the National Hockey League, number 11.
I had number 11 with the Montreal Junior Canadian, and they asked me before, which number do you want? I said, hey, any number. I mean, I'll keep the number 11, no problem.
Yeah, that's an awesome. So you go first overall in 1970. Lafleur goes first overall in 1971. That was the big draft where it was between him and Marcel Dion, of course. I look back at your careers. It's unbelievable. It almost can't get closer than that in terms of the numbers. Have you ever taken a look at the numbers, your numbers, Guy Lafleur's numbers, and taken a look at how close they are? It's incredible.
Well, he didn't play. He retired young. He was, 12, 13 years in the league.
Yeah.
He come back. So at the end, he was, 37, 38, 39 probably. So if he would have played, I'm sure he would have had more goals.
Yeah, but regardless, listen, the numbers. Gilbert Perreault in 1,191 games, 1,326 points. Guy Lafleur in 1,126 games, 1,353 points. And your playoff numbers, you averaged 1.14 points per game. Lafleur averaged 1.05 in the playoffs. Your numbers were so close. Two great players. What a pleasure and an honor it is to have you here with me tonight. So talk to me. When you played against Guy Lafleur, what can you tell me besides the booming slap shot that he had and his nose for the net? He scored goals. The first player in NHL history to score 50-plus goals and 100-plus points in 6 consecutive seasons. But is there something that you can tell me beyond the numbers?
Well, Guy was a very spectacular hockey player, in Montreal. I mean, not only in Montreal, Buffalo, we were waiting for him. We knew what kind of player he was. He had that speed and he had that power. I mean, usually today players are on the ice for 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Our time, we were on the ice for 2 minutes, but he was on the ice for 3-4 minutes. He was very strong man and powerful skater. Great shot, and he had that touch. That touch with his slap shot right in the corner all the time. They were a natural goal scorer. He was a very natural goal scorer.
I had a chance to catch up with Yves Tremblay, who I saw at the funeral, and we were walking back to the Bell Center, and I had a chance to catch up with him. And your name came up, and I told him, I said, it was so nice to see Gilbert Perreault. And he and Guy have been friends for over 45, 46 years. He was the Habs PR in 77, 78, 79, and they became very, very good friends. And he said to me, Tony, you have no idea how many times Guy Lafleur told me, if only I could have played my career with Gilbert Perreault, the amount of goals I would have scored would have been crazy. So he would have loved to have played with you, which you did with the Canada Cup teams, of course.
Yes, we had a chance to be together in 76 and 81, but 81 was very important for me because I was playing with him and Wayne Gretzky, and in 76 I was with Marcel Dion and Bobby Hall, which was not too bad either. So the two Canada Cup were really good for us, and it was a great tournament. We won the first in 76. We won that tournament, but in 81 we lost one game, and it was the last one. So
yeah,
but it was amazing playing with Guy and Wayne.
Yeah, but you were out in 81. You missed that final game, right? You were out with a broken ankle?
I broke my ankle in semifinals, so I probably missed 1 or 2 games. So,
wow. Let's take a couple of pictures. Let's take a look at a couple of pictures. Here's one with you, Guy Lafleur, and there's you and Guy Lafleur. You remember that moment?
Well, that's a long time ago. Not really. I don't know. Who did?
It's Canada Cup. You're celebrating a goal there. Okay.
Probably he scored that goal anyway.
Let's take a look at you and Guy and Marcel Dion. There's you and Guy. That moment, I'm sure you remember, right?
Yeah, that was when he retired, I believe. It was his last game in 82 or 83. Retired the first time.
Yeah, I think it was he had retired and they brought him back so that the fans can give him a round of applause, right? And then there you met up?
He came to our bench and shook hands with everybody. So, yeah, he was a good man, very good man.
You remember what you said to him?
Pardon me?
Do you remember what you said to him by any chance when you shook hands there?
I just shook hands, like the crowd was really loud, and I just told him, congratulations, Guy, for a wonderful career, and retire young.
Let's take a look at the picture, another picture. You, Guy Lafleur, and Marcel Dion. We talk about greatness. You number 1 overall in 1970, Lafleur number 1 overall in 71, and Marcel Dion number 2 in 71. That's a Hockey Hall of Fame?
Yeah, that was at this restaurant in Rosemere. We had a press conference there for, I'm not sure if it was for his last tour in Quebec, in Canada. I think it was his last year playing for the Hockey Legion. Yeah.
Quebec has produced very good players after Gilbert Perreault and after Guy Lafleur. Mario Lemieux, of course, comes to mind. And there's been others after that. But you talk to those who were huge hockey fans back in the 70s, and they'll tell you they don't make them like Gilbert Perreault and Guy Lafleur anymore. Do you think hockey has become too strategic, too tactical, too systemic?
Well, tactical, I mean, it's our time was, when we were playing in the 70s, it was instinct hockey. I mean, we knew that when I was playing with René Robert and Rick Martin, if I was making a bad back, but I knew he was going to be there, So we didn't practice that. It was just natural, I guess. And I'm sure he was like that with Steve Schutt and Jean Lemaire or Pete Mahovlich.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Now, today, you need a good power play today. You look at that at the game, it's pretty even all the time. You shoot the puck in, everybody goes in the corner, and they try to dig the puck there and, make the paint front. But power play today is very important.
Later on, when your careers were over, there was the alumni would play games, the legends would tour, and you and Guy Lafleur played together. Did you not? For how many years?
We did, I don't know. I probably played 15 years or between 10 and 15. I don't recall how many years, but I know I did the last year. They called me. I retired at 55, with the legend. I said, I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
And they called me back when I was 60. They said, well, you got to play with Guy the last tour, So I said, well, I'm going to go back on my stationary bicycle for about a couple of weeks. Yeah. And I pick up about 4 games. I said, I'm going to play Sherbrooke, Drummondville, Shawinigan, and Montreal, and that was it for me after that.
and did you play on a line with Guy Lafleur?
Oh yes, we played many years together. I don't know, sometimes it all depends where we were playing. Sometimes if there were a lot Montreal Canadian player, they were playing with him, So I was playing with Marcel Dion or different players, but I did play a lot with him. Yeah.
Guy Lafleur told us when the alumni and he'd go around and they would play their games in Western Canada that he was probably even more popular there than he was in Quebec. As someone who played with him in those Legends games and on tour, can you talk to us about Lafleur and the amount of attention that he drew?
Oh, gee, popular. Talking about popular, unbelievable out west, how popular he was. And every game, we were playing Yukon, and everybody knew him. He was putting the show on too on the ice. He was working really hard in those games, and he was just spectacular. It's a very spectacular player to watch. Give 100% all the time, and it was. He loved to play hockey.
Even Gilbert, even playing in those Legends games.
Oh yes,
he wanted to be the best. He wanted to put on a show.
Yeah, put the show on every game, and they told me that when he was playing in the NHL, it was 3 hours before the game. It was the same thing with the Legend. 3 hours before the game, it was ready for that, and it was just. Amazing to watch him. How he was working and loved to score goals.
Yeah. Real passion for the game, eh?
Oh, yes. He had a lot of passion there.
You imagine the amount of pictures that he took and the amount of autographs that he signed?
See, like I said, I saw him coming out of the bus. He was signing. Inside of the ring, he was signing. After the game, he was signing. He goes at the hotel, he was signing again. So never stopped. It was, usually like people were always there for him. And he never always said, well, I'm going to sign it, And sometimes we were waiting for him in the bus. But that was Guy, signing an autograph.
His sister-in-law was saying at the funeral, and she's known him for about 50 years, of course, because he met Lise back in the early 70s and they got married, that all the time they spent together, every time they went to a restaurant and they tried to enjoy a good meal or have a glass of wine, not one night did somebody not come over and say, can I take a picture? Can I have an autograph? And he would make them sit down whether it was an older gentleman, whether it was a young woman, whether it was to introduce them to their kids, their son, their daughter. To think that, I don't know if I've ever met an athlete who belonged to the public as much as he did, right? He
was good, very good with the people. I mean, I'm sure when he had his restaurant in Berthierville or Rosemère, he must have been there a lot and to talk to the people. He was really so popular. He loved the people, loved to talk to them. He knew how popular he was, and he loved that, and he loved to be good to the people, because people were paying good money, to go and watch him, and that's what he was giving back.
It's the Sick Podcast, and you can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram at the Sick Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. At the funeral, and everyone was talking about Guy Lafleur and paying tribute to him. And I thought the speeches, by the way, were absolutely fantastic. Jeff Molson, Larry Robinson, Guy Carbonneau, his son Martin, Patrick Roy, Yvan Cournoyer, the list goes on and on. Yeah, the list. I thought they were awesome. And as I was sitting down in the church and everyone was talking about, Guy loved to make people happy, right? He loved to make people happy. He loved to do things for people. And, so I run into you at the funeral, and I get your number and I have you on the podcast. And I thought the whole time, what's more fitting than we're talking about Guy Lafleur, who loved to make people happy, that I in turn will try and make somebody happy myself. Okay. So I've never done this before on the podcast, but I want to bring in a very dear friend of mine who's been talking to me about Gilbert Perreault ever since I was a little kid. And he wants to say hello to you, and he wants to tell you about one of his favorite Gilbert Perreault stories and talk to you about how great you were. I'm going to bring him in. Come in, Pino. Come in. Sit down. All right. I've never done this before, Gilles. All right. All right, so I'll introduce him. And Pino Azzaro gave me my first start in radio back in 1995. He was hosting a show on Sunday nights and asked me to help him out as an intern, which I did for a couple of months. It gave me the bug, and I made my way into the business. So Pino used to go to all the Junior Canadiens games. So let's get the microphone away from you. There you go.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
What an honor. Thank you very much for having accepted this invitation. I'm really, really honored, and I'm sorry if I'm going to get emotional. I'm 1 year younger than you. I'm going to be. I turned 7.
Big hockey fans during in the 60s.
I became a hockey fan. In '68 thanks to Bobby Orr.
All right.
And I tell you, I became an instant Boston Bruins fan. However, since I lived in St. Henry of Montreal, close to the Forum, I used to attend every Saturday night game of the big team, standing room only because I couldn't afford seats. And on Sunday nights, I was at every Junior Canadiens game, and I became your biggest fan. And I always said to anybody that cared to listen, if Gilbert Perreault ever had a chance to play for the Montreal Canadiens, today we'll be talking about Gilbert Perreault in Quebec, in Montreal, in the same sentence as we do of the great Guy Lafleur.
Well, in the 60s, it was for 3 or 4 years, was a really exciting junior hockey.
It was incredible. Gilbert, I just want to pick your brain a second. I just want to bring back 2 events that left a mark. Besides all your scoring abilities, picking up the puck, rushing up the ice, and scoring amazing goals, 2 events. The game against the Soviet national team. You remember that one?
Yeah.
You remember that?
That's where we had 21,000 people at the Forum.
I was at the game. I couldn't believe it. Do you remember the game at all? The way the game evolved?
I believe we beat them, 7-2 or
9-3. You were down 2-0. You were down 2-0. You were down 2-0 after the first period, and you came back. I believe in that game you scored 3 goals or 2 goals and 3 assists.
Yeah, something like that.
And you had big players that went on to play in the Canada Cup of 1972. Tetriak was in net.
Yeah. It was the same team.
Karmalov, big names, and there's one particular moment that I'll never forget. There was this gentleman had a seat behind the glass at the same level as the net, and after the 9th goal, he stood up and he was hanging on to the glass and he started chanting. You remember?
His name was André Bertrand. His name.
It was incredible. The other memory that I have, and this brings in Guy Lafleur, the great Guy Lafleur, was the Richardson Cup.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember that one. Richardson Cup. Guy Lafleur played for the Quebec Ramparts against the Montreal Junior Canadiens.
Oh yeah, that was a semi-final against. That was the Quebec League against the OHA. But it was Montreal against Quebec.
Correct. And you beat Quebec 3-0. Like we
had, we won 2 Memorial Cup there. We had such a good team too.
Correct.
We beat Toronto, I believe, in final in 7 games before playing against Quebec. So it was a fantastic year in junior. I mean, the crowd was there. We had all kind of. All different plays or lots of fights. There was
Goblinski, remember him?
Oh yes, Alan, yeah. I talked to Alan a couple of months ago. Yeah, I talked to him, and we had an exciting team. Very exciting.
All I can say, thank you for the memories, and it was such a pleasure coming to the forum and watching you and the rest of the Canadians putting on such a great show. And to see the fans react. And I remind the people that are listening to the podcast, many games, the junior Canadians outdrew the big team.
Yeah,
you had a full house. Gilbert, I'm going to give you.
I believe 1 year Montreal didn't make the playoff, and that's why it's everybody came to the junior game. But the year after, they won the Stanley Cup anyway.
Gilbert, I thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. I'm going to give the mic back to Tony. Thank you.
Take care, man. Take care. Thank you.
So I never did that before, but, Pino Azaro, like I said, who's a very dear friend of my father's, they have been since the late 60s. He gave me my start in radio, so I said, on a night where we're paying tribute to Guy Lafleur, who did so many nice things for so many people, why don't I repay Pino, knowing how much you meant to Pino's life, and you gave him an itch for hockey. And I have one of these, which I picked up at Christmas time, a Montreal Canadiens jersey, Guy Lafleur, and I got it to his good friend Donnie Cape, who saw it and talked to Lafleur about it and said, Tony Marinaro has your jersey, and he said, get me that jersey. That jersey deserves to be signed. And so I got this one, and I'm so proud of it. And I've had a chance, after listening to my dad and Pino talk to me about the great Gilbert Perreault so much, that I've watched so many of your highlights on YouTube. And the next jersey I'm going out and getting is a Buffalo Sabres number 11 Gilbert Perreault. And if at some point we can meet up and you can do me the honor of signing it, I would really love that.
That'll be my pleasure to do it.
Fantastic. Gilbert, I know it's been a very, very long day, a very taxing day, a very emotional day, but in ending, if we can end on a note, and what do you want people to know about Guy Lafleur?
Well, Guy was very good man, very good person. Give time to everybody. We were lucky to the hockey legend, lucky to have him playing with us because he was so popular, and bringing with him, playing with us. People were packed. We had a lot of people in all different arenas and through Canada, everywhere we went.
He really went beyond hockey, though, right? Like he was, so loved by so many people for the fact that he was imperfect, but that's why so many people loved him, because at the end of the day, I never met anyone who's perfect.
He's such a good man. Gives a lot of time to people, to his fans, and I got two sons. You know, they love Guy Lafleur. I mean, they met Guy Lafleur many years ago. I don't know how long ago, probably 15, 20 years ago. We played in Three Rivers, and my two sons had a chance to play with Guy on the same line. So what a thrill they had, and he was good to them. And every time he had a puck, he was giving them, make sure that they were scoring a goal or something. So he was really good to them. So what a man, and he's humble and a great person to be around, and it was great for the province of Quebec, but great for hockey all over the world.
Yeah. Hey, because you're such a great conversation, actually one or two more things here, and I'll do it very quickly. But when he retired for the first time, right back in 1984, as an opponent, did you think he was going to retire? How much did his retirement surprise you or not? His first one.
Oh, he did. Did really surprise me. That was what started in 71 and
84. He was 33.
33. Yeah, that's I was young, 33 years old. But I guess he was not happy, and they didn't want to trade him. I guess.
Yeah.
I know he asked to be traded, and they didn't want to trade him.
Serge Savard did not want to trade Guy Lafleur. He did not want to be the man who traded Guy Lafleur.
Not even that. Imagine if you trade him, he goes to Edmonton with Wayne and scores 60 goals.
Wow.
That's Montreal will look that good.
And win Stanley Cups. To think that he was 3.5 years out of hockey. Yeah. And he came back and he put up 45 points with the Rangers, I believe. And then the year after, almost a point a game with the Nordiques, and that famous game with the Rangers when he came back to score 2 goals and 1 assist versus the Canadiens as a 37-year-old. Wasn't that like, out of all the great moments he had in his career, and most of them with the Canadiens, that night with the Rangers getting the ovation that he did at the Montreal Forum? Wow.
Well, that's what I just said before, how powerful this man was. Retire for three years, come back, and be a still good hockey player. I mean, he was not 20, 25, but I mean, even at 36, 37, still a great hockey player.
Yeah. At age 70, he obviously went too young. I'm glad to see that you're doing well. Gilbert Perreault, please take care of yourself, because you were never a Montreal Canadian, but we always wished that you would have been. We love you so much, and you were truly one of the greatest players in the history of the National Hockey League.
He loves the 2 French Canadians in the 70s. That's why.
Yeah, the French Canadian rule, right? The year that you were number 1 overall, that rule that the Canadians would have the top 2 French Canadians that didn't exist anymore, correct?
That was it. That's why I went to Buffalo.
Could you imagine how many Stanley Cups the Montreal Canadiens with Gilbert Perreault?
I would have only asked for 1. But, they had that rule coming up. I'm not sure even. I think they were not able to trade their first pick.
Okay.
I think Buffalo and Vancouver, they were not able to trade their first pick. They were just trying to help the new franchise at that time.
Cup or no cup, you're a champion in my book, on the ice and off the ice. Once again, it was a very, very tough day. I was so happy to see you. We love you, Gilbert Perreault, and thank you for this honor of being on the Sick Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Sorry, we lost you. Go ahead.
Nice meeting you.
Very nice to meet you, too. All the best to you. The great Gilbert Perreault. I'm Marinaro. It's the Sick Podcast. Tell your friends about it. Where great recognizes great. Rest in peace, Guy. We love you. Good night.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by 8.6, Intense by Nature, and La Cage. If the last time you went to La Cage was when the Habs won the Cup, It's time you went back to La Cage. The menu will surprise you.